don't see exactly what I look like in this frame here, which is very blurry. So be ready for that. And you can still comment anyway on YouTube and Facebook, youtube.com/@KTGR Sports and Facebook.com/KTGR Big Show.
Now, the Big Show's Big Deal.
So yesterday, Mizzou football did announce their additions to the assistant coaching staff. It's official that John Papuchis will be the special teams coordinator, Alex Atkins, the tight ends coach, Garrett Riley, the new quarterbacks coach, and Chop Harbin, that's going to be a fun name to talk about, defensive line coach for Mizzou coming over. So we'll see how this coaching staff can get things turned around from the 8-5 season. Not a bad season, obviously, but Mizzou trying to reach some higher goals into 2026. Meanwhile, also today, it'll be part of NFL Honors next week. A week from today, it'll be announced. Creed Humphrey of the Chiefs, named as one of the 6 finalists for the inaugural Protector of the Year award, goes out to the best offensive lineman in the NFL, regardless of position. That is the Big Show's Big Deal on this 29th day of January 2026. You can call or text us here, 573-875-KTGR, to weigh in on how you feel about all that. I think with this transfer class, it gets me more intrigued about how they might use certain players because of how many younger guys they brought in and how many of them might get utilized in certain roles this year. Obviously, you want to use it to bring in a bunch of starters, but Mizzou did a little bit of that and then a little bit more of, okay, who can also help us in 2027? That's also out there. And just a bunch of power conference guys that, look, if you just look down the list of all the other schools that eventually got said player that is now on Mizzou to commit to their school at the time and had the evaluation of, yeah, we like this guy. Well, then I think there are a lot of choices here as far as who you might be excited about, just based on the fact of where these kids are coming from and how many of them decided to join on from Mizzou and could do so for maybe even past next year.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of names that are kind of in a similar bucket, and like how much you want to make of the transfer portal star rankings and ratings. Like these services have to kind of put a number on it and rate how each team did and the quality of each player. Obviously, you can be a 3-star transfer and come in and be even more impactful than, that 3-star would indicate. I like one of the 3 stars incoming that, again, the portal ranking, at least according to 24/7 Sports, is that this individual is a 3-star. I'm very excited about Robert Woodyard Jr., linebacker, because I really feel as though, he comes from the defense at Auburn that we talked a lot about this year. It was kind of the hallmark of that team. And certainly when you look over his box scores, he had maybe his most impactful game of the year against Missouri. That clearly left an impression on Eli Drinkwitz. 11 tackles, 9 solo for Woodyard in that game against Mizzou. And he was a guy that made a ton of tackles, 67 total throughout the season, and a couple of sacks to his credit as well. I think you're looking for some production, obviously, from the linebacker group. After Trotter leaving, Newsom departing, you've got to come up with something to add there. And I think Woodard was clearly the guy that they circled and were able to land in the portal, right? Like that was one that happened a little bit earlier in the process. And I think maybe one of the more exciting players adding to the defense that we know is a unit that's lost a lot of talent and contributors from last season. So to get a guy that you're kind of plugging into that role, hoping to get the most out of him, I'm excited to see what Woodyard is made of.
That, I think for sure, if you notice him as a similar guy to Trotter, is a huge win. It can make the biggest impact for sure, because you don't want to see too much of a drop off at that position. Mizzou's been pretty spoiled, if you ask me, on linebacker play last few years or so. And like it's almost like you keep the line moving on it.
Yeah.
And so it was almost necessary that they get a guy like Woodyard. I'm not saying he shouldn't be excited, but I think he should be. It's just like the impact will be shown by him being, trying to be as close to what Trotter was. I don't know if we'll get all the way there, but it'll still be what Mizzou needs to stay productive in that unit. I mean, Caden Lee's an obvious one, I think, too, that he can slot right in and I think be your Kevin Coleman type. Who knows if he gets the exact same type of production, but I think that's the role you place him in to start out. And then that kind of also ties to the Austin Simmons part of it. But man, Brendan, I look at some of the DBs that Mizzou got in the portal, and I think like Elijah Dotson might be like a really under the radar good get for Mizzou. Young guy who played on an excellent defense as a true freshman for Michigan and like made an impact. Like he wasn't just out there every so often for snap. No, he was out there for some key plays, key drives. And now he's with this unit that needed a little bit of help at safety. He could also play some he can play some corner too. I think every so often there was a bit of question as to what he might be playing as he came to Mizzou, but he was excellent at safety this past year. And if you keep him around, like that gets you some more production down the line. So that's why I'm interested to see how much they use him right away to say, okay, what were they seeing in him already? And if they saw a lot and he lives up to it, then Mizzou might be set for that position for maybe at least one more year and possibly two.
Yeah, the secondary is a unit that, took more losses than we maybe even anticipated with like the Marvin Burks departure later on in the process. And that's somebody that coming back you thought would be, still intact and would be a starter, was a starter. Santana Banner, I think for a moment there was like the only guy you had that you're like, yeah, he played this year and he's coming back. So that's what we've got. So they had to make a lot of additions. And again, we've talked a lot about the guys that you can add, and they did add from the power conferences and the contributions that you're hoping those guys can step right in to make. Because even if you didn't have a ton of productivity at some of those places, and you gave an example of somebody who did, you're going to have to find a way to produce here because these are the guys that they picked up. So getting a guy from Michigan who played and has experience is definitely something that you look at and say, this is our trajectory. Like this is our plan about how we want to go about rebuilding a defense that took losses. It was inevitable. It's a credit to the defense in some ways that it happened. Even the players that you didn't graduate or you didn't send to the NFL, some of the guys like a Damon Wilson performed well within your defense to where he was able to go get another bag of money. And unfortunately, maybe out of your price range, but you're finding that in that secondary in particular, you just had a big number. The volume was going to have to be there. And Dotson comes as one that hopefully can step right in. And, I'm not even going to limit some of these guys to say they can't raise the level of production from what we saw last year at various position groups. Maybe tougher to do at linebacker. When we talk about Woodyard comparing to Trotter, but in terms of the secondary, I do think there's an opportunity for the secondary to be even better than it was. I think it was very solid, especially second half of the season. But they're going out there and get some athletes that can come in and contribute.
Yeah, and younger guys that I'm sure are hungry for that opportunity. And if they work out, then you can really see the light shining through for future years. And then we'll see what that means for Mizzou's secondary going forward. 875 KTGR, your favorite non-quarterback Mizzou transfer that the Tigers got in this offseason. I mean, Caden Lee's obviously one too. Caleb Goody potentially as like that. He's your Marquise Johnson replacement, but isn't maybe a guy that produces a little bit more, or you might need to look for one of these guys that they brought in to produce a little bit more than what Johnson had last year. Maybe it's Goody. I think Kendrick Lanier out of Minnesota, also kind of flying under the radar in this conversation, could factor in next year. Goody is maybe the front runner for that category, but the plays that he was able to make at Cincinnati, I think, can translate here pretty well.
Yeah, so Marquise Johnson was 28 receptions for 340 yards. He was third on the team in yards, was actually fifth on the team in receptions. Josh Manning had 29. Brett Norfleet had 31. Yeah, like I think he's a candidate to certainly match the length downfield of what Marquise Johnson brought. If I set that over under for Caleb Goody at a half reception higher than what Marquise Johnson had this last year, if I said 28.5, what would you, which by the way, Caleb Goody had exactly 29 receptions with Cincinnati.
Last year.
28.5, that's my line. Where would you go, over or under?
Well, and that's also kind of considering that Cincinnati had a very strong quarterback last year.
They had a pass-heavy offense compared to what Mizzou had, where Marquise Johnson piling up 28 was almost against the will of the team because they just didn't throw the ball as much or as successfully.
But compared to how other Cincinnati receivers did, I'm sure Goody was maybe down the list a little bit. Maybe not all that way down.
That's
but
fair to ask.
I would guess like maybe 5th on that team in catches or something like that. Because obviously he wanted to look for opportunities elsewhere, maybe found a chance to get it here at Mizzou.
Yeah, and Sorsby had 2,800 passing yards. They had some backups that registered about 200 total. So that was a 3,000-yard passing team. I think I just was looking at Prabula had 1,900, Zollers had 500. So about 550 to 600 more passing yards overall for the Cincinnati offense than Missouri, which, maybe doesn't sound like a ton, but it's a good every single game, about 50, 60 more yards than what Mizzou was piling up. It adds up. And Goody was tied for 3rd on that team. I would guess the yards per attempt were better in the passing game at Cincinnati than at Missouri because they totaled 225 completions as a team, and Missouri was actually at 229. So they were just getting a lot more bang for their buck. I would take under, to be clear, on Caleb Goody, 28.5. I would say under.
Okay.
But I wouldn't necessarily take a lot away from him regarding, what Marquise Johnson piled up from a yardage standpoint, which was 340. I would take the over on that, I think, and that is matched by what he was able to do with Cincy. Had only 29 catches, but 484 yards. That's truly a field stretching type of wide receiver that averaged 16.7 yards per reception. The downfield just wasn't there for Johnson to be able to do that for Missouri as much this year. He was still running some of those routes, oftentimes to frustration at Prabula not seeing him. He only averaged 12.1 yards per reception, which is down from the 14.1 that Marquise Johnson had in his second year at Mizzou. And you remember his freshman year, where
that was
really
it.
he was just that deep guy.
30-yard bombs.
Fast, go fast, run straight. 29.5.
Yeah.
Was his average.
So I was pretty close.
That was the average.
That was the average,
13 receptions of his 3 seasons with Missouri. Clearly, was on the field the most in the latter years. He caught the most yardage as a freshman, 383, and then went down to 352 and only 340 this year. So that was a product of the offense, I think, more so than anything related to Johnson. I'm not ready to say that, Austin Simmons is going to come in here and immediately fix that to the degree of what Brendan Sorsby was doing with Cincinnati. So that's where I'm like, if I had to name the stat line for Goody, I would go like right at the 28 catches and maybe 400 yards instead of like the 480 that he just had. But I think I don't want to necessarily look at Goody. Like, I wouldn't name him personally as the transfer I'm most excited about in this conversation. I am intrigued to see what the role is. I won't be like stunned to my core if we return to this a year from now and go, yeah, Goody didn't really fill out. Like somebody surpassed him on the depth chart, or that role was just more of a bit role in the offense. And maybe he came up with a couple of memorable catches. But if you're catching in the 20s on the season, you're not necessarily at that level of really being a big time producer. But I also think when we think about the receptions aspect of it, how many additional receptions are going to be had on next year's offense when I still think they'll be pretty pass heavy? So that's why, like, I'm intrigued. I think the receiving core is going to be what it needs to be. I'm most excited to see Caden Lee, but more than that, I'm most excited to see Donovan Alubade. Like, I want to see Donovan Alubade on the field every play, where as much as you are as a college receiver, and to be the team leader in receiving yards, the team leader in receptions. Caden Lee to be kind of that third down, Kevin Coleman for you, and then Goody to be the deep ball guy. I think that all blends very nicely. and Norfleet continuing to perform in his role. I just think the volume is going to be more modest, almost by design. But hopefully this time you have a quarterback that within that structure can be efficient in his opportunities and get you down the field a little bit more quickly.
875 KTGR, the non-quarterback transfer you're most excited about. A lot of the production, I think, just as a whole, depends on Mizzou's passing offense, how much they trust their quarterback, and ultimately his ability to hit some of those deep passes, which, look, they tried deep passes last year at times. They didn't work. And then towards the second half of the season, they're like, why would we try them anymore? They don't work.
No. That's not what they said about deep passes. That's what they said about passes at the end of the year.
That's what I mean. Sure. Yeah, you can say that.
They literally said, why would we try that?
That's fair. But then they said, like, okay, when we need to pass, let's not go 15, 20 yards downfield. Let's try and set something up on the outside, get somebody in space, have them run after the catch, something like that. I still do think, though, that, like, you have one of the best running back rooms in the country, if not the best. And the way that they'll use Ahmad Hardy, Jamal Roberts, I think will still be similar as they did this past year. But here's the other thing, and maybe another candidate for this conversation. I don't think they'll just sit Ja'Shawn Edwards on the bench just because they have Hardy and Roberts. Like, I think they want to use them.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to, when he's on the field, I would say look out if I'm the defense, because there's probably a reason, and he may be somebody that you're looking to actually touch the football. Not a huge part of his game, but in the college game, you don't really see a lot of this anyway. But he had 18 receptions. I would think, can he be kind of that third down, be a guy that's a receiving threat with some good speed at 5'9", 175. You got to worry about pass blocking sometimes with guys like that. But if he's, like I'm saying, if he's out there, it's probably to try and set something up, whether it's a screen or, hand him the ball in that kind of outside zone scheme. Like, I think there's probably a reason when this offense and this coaching staff goes out to get a running back and identify him, kind of like with Ahmad Hardy this time last year, I was already saying, oh my gosh, what are they saying about what he's done in outside zone? Like, this guy's going to be a menace for Missouri. Maybe that's something they saw with Edwards that they can deploy, but I think he'll be in a Marquise Davis role, but maybe a little bit trumped up. Like in the main games, did Davis get a lot of touches? No, you didn't really see him.
Sure.
I think it's going to be kind of similar to that.
Well, I kind of go back maybe a little bit further, maybe the year before that when, say, like Mizzou's running back room, Nate Noel, Marcus Carroll, and they have that.
So you're saying Ja'Shawn Edwards is our Kawan Lacey, and so it's
no, I'm saying he might be your Jamal Roberts in that, because Roberts played a good amount in that system also.
Yeah.
He was a goal line guy at times. He was also a good pass protector there. Like, they liked his production anyway.
And you can't trust what they say. Diego Pavia said he was 6 foot and he's 5'9", but Roberts is listed 6 foot 212. Edwards 5'9", 175. So like, Edwards might really be 165. You know what I mean? To where that, I don't know if that's exactly the comp. Maybe the amount of playing time could be comparable to what Roberts was seeing in that 2024 season. And he, and there were games too where Marcus Carroll would be banged up. We know Nate Noel was banged up kind of a lot of the year. And so you end up getting maybe some mixture there. That's what I think they look at Ja'Shawn Edwards to be, is like, maybe not as much between the tackles with as much heft on his frame.
Sure.
Although I'm sure they wanted to pick up some muscle if they can get that on him. But if you have one of your top two go down, I think Edwards becomes a guy that you are willing to say is in the similar mold and mindset of the way they like to run the football, to where they won't just have to say, 100% of the carries now go to Hardy or 100% now go to Roberts if there's an injury ahead. That's the thing I think we were worried about in those days where Eli Drinkwitz was begging St. Louis area companies to keep Jamal Roberts around, where it was like, okay, what happens if you lose him and then Hardy gets hurt?
Yeah.
Now I feel like, God willing, there's no injuries to the running back room, but we see it, for a drive or a series or whatever, guys at least get banged up throughout the season. I think that's really where the Edwards stuff comes in. And there will be some packages for him as well, to where when he's out there, they want him to touch the football.
875 KTGR, the transfer that you are most intrigued by for Mizzou football, not named Austin Simmons. It's too easy of an answer. He's the clear answer out of the whole transfer class. But who else are you looking to make an impact? Who are you excited to see on the field once we get to September? Here on the Big Show, KTGR and the KTGR app. Call or text us with your thoughts at 875-5847. Up next, Drew King of PowerMizzou.com joins us to talk Mizzou off of the blowout loss to Alabama. What does it mean? Can the Tigers rebound this weekend against Mississippi State? Drew King joins us next here on the Big Show, KTGR.
Breaking down the Tigers, Cardinals, Chiefs, and more like no one else. The Big Show continues next on KTGR.
Lose weight or stop smoking with hypnosis. Only $59.99 guaranteed or your money back. Stop smoking without cravings, irritability, or weight gain. That's right. Don't just cut down, but stop smoking once and for all. Also lose all the weight and let Mark Patrick Hypnosis destroy unwanted cravings. Hypnosis Tuesday, February 3rd at the Capitol Plaza Hotel and Convention Center in Jefferson City, or Wednesday, February 4th at the Holiday Inn Columbia East in Columbia. Weight loss hypnosis 5:30 p.m. Stop smoking hypnosis 8 p.m.
So, Mr. Fancy Dancy Sports Car Dude, you say you were distracted by a raccoon feasting in the road? Okay. How about the fact that you were going way too fast when there's like 5 inches of snow on the ground? Nice ditch you got there, bro. Now you need a save, a savior, a do-over. Find your phone and just Google I-70 Towing. They're Mid-Missouri's go-to crew for slide-offs. When your winter world seems to have been wrecked, call the team they hope you never have to meet. I70towing.com. A raccoon. Just ridiculous.
From elegant weddings to corporate lunches with flavor and flair, Courtyard by Marriott Columbia brings the party and the pros. It's the home of Main Event Catering. And with every event, you'll get an award-winning chef, full banquet staff, and drop-and-go options for any size crowd. And the event center holds up 300 guests with 8 flexible rooms. If you need help, there's a Marriott certified wedding coordinator on staff too. Book now by calling 573-443-8000.
You're a merchant of all things that are man. Firearms, fishing, cars, food, sports. Yeah, the kind of stuff every man always needs more of. So show it off at the Mecca of Man. The 2026 Como Man Show, Saturday, March 14th at the Northeast Event Center where the Boone County Fair is held. It's the best and most fun way to show every man they need what you got. Seriously, by showing them. Bring your best stuff, show it off, and have a blast. For more info on being a vendor at the Man Show, go to comomanshow.com.
Guys like me that are born and raised in this area and are running a company here, we want to do things for the customers the right way.
Barry Rowe of True Sun Exteriors knows it's important to stay local.
Storm chasers that come into town or fly-by-night companies, they'll do things for less money than we will, but that's because they don't intend to do it correctly, and they certainly don't intend to fix it because they're going to be gone or out of business. They'll come into town and get a local phone number and a local PO address so they can say that they're local. Well, they're not local. It's extremely important, especially with roofs and windows and big projects, that you choose someone who cares about what's going on. You may pay a few $100s more for it, but it's better than saving a few $100s and then a year down the road having to redo the whole project again with someone local and just going through the headache of having to do that again and having all the issues.
The difference between a house and a home is the attention to detail. At True Sun Exteriors and Interiors, we'll turn your vision of a dream home into a reality. For more information or a free estimate, go to TrueSunExteriors.com.
TrueSunExteriors.com. Hey, Columbia, this is Coach Agnew from API. I've got a New Year's deal for you don't want to miss. If you've been thinking about getting in shape, now's the perfect time to jump in. Sign up at API before the end of January and get your first 31 days for just $31. That's right, 31 days, $31. With expert coaching, a supportive community, and all the tools you'll need to crush your fitness goals. There's never been a better time to join the API family. So come on in and let's make this year your strongest year yet. Sign up now at APIProjectFitness.com.
Back to more of the biggest sports stories in mid-Missouri. You've got The Big Show on the KTGR app.
Here on the Big Show, KTGR, KTGR app, and KTGR.com. Also live on YouTube and Facebook. Call or text us here at 573-875-KTGR if you want to join in Mizzou basketball this Saturday. You can come on by Mizzou Arena. They're having a kids' day, so it'll be good for the kiddos. And then, of course, if you can't make it out, 2 o'clock is when coverage will start in the afternoon right here on KTGR. You can catch it there. And covering all things Mizzou basketball this year is Drew King at PowerMizzou.com. You can follow him on Twitter. You can see his great work over at PowerMizzou.com probably no work greater than the Stats That Stood Out article that he posted right after the Alabama game that Mizzou lost by 26 points. He had a stat that stood out, and it's like, look, Drew, I thought anyone who hasn't read it, it's well worth the time it will take you to read it, and then some, and then a lot more than even.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
What inspired you? I would think it was Mizzou's free throw shooting that inspired you.
Well, yes. So after the game, after every game this season, what I normally do is I'll have one bigger argument that focuses on kind of what you just saw. And that one, I kind of went deep on the free throws and talked about like, yeah, Mizzou had a lot go wrong against Alabama, but it kind of started with going 8 for 23 at the free throw line. And then my second article after a game will usually come out the next morning, and it's a little bit shorter, and it's for subscribers only, and it's stats that stood out. And I'll usually find an angle that maybe wasn't like the main focus of the game, but I still thought was kind of interesting and deserved some attention. And I was kind of having a hard time after that one. I was like, so I texted my boss, Gabe DeArmond. I was like, kind of just want to say 8 and 23 and call it a day. And he's like, you should do that. And so that's what we went with.
It was perfect. It was so true. That was in very much a stat that stood out. But as you mentioned, Drew, like that was awful. Mizzou shot not all that great in other areas of the floor also. And then Alabama shot excellently. I mean, this a shop of horrors type of situation for Mizzou in Tuscaloosa there. So, I mean, it showed you when everything goes wrong, that's kind of the result. But what has Mizzou kind of shown in games where everything goes right? And maybe even then, like, are they still capable of taking down teams like Alabama and maybe even presumably on the road? Because in order for Mizzou to kind of climb back into this conversation here of NCAA tournament, they'll need to win a game like that.
For sure. So I think that kind of surprisingly, when things go well for this team, it's usually because they're doing a good job on the defensive end. You think about the Florida win, they held them to 74 points. They beat Kentucky by holding them to 68 points. Auburn got held to 74 points. So usually when they're at their very best, it's because they're getting stops, right? And it's not that they've been a horrible defensive or offensive team this year, but they definitely like haven't been making as many threes. Like we've mentioned the free throws already. Those have been really rough this season and kind of put a cap on what they can do on that end. So it's a team that finishes really, really well around the rim, but doesn't always have a whole lot else going for it. And so for me, like when they are capable of hitting threes at a decent clip and finishing at the rim and then going and getting the stops, that's when I think they kind of reach their ceiling. They just haven't done that consistently. It's consistently enough so far in SEC play.
And some of it, you know, I think comes down to, maybe a lot of it comes down to just the personnel and maybe the way it's coalescing right now. Where would you kind of identify some of the ways in which they're kind of falling short? Obviously, I think Anthony Robinson's kind of a hot button name this season because in theory, he was to step forward and develop into maybe one of the go-to guys. And obviously we haven't seen maybe the consistency from him. I guess, how would you evaluate the journey of Anthony Robinson this season and how that's kind of impacted some of the things you're talking about with regard to that consistency?
Well, I mean, Dennis Gates said it a couple of weeks ago. He was like, if Anthony Robinson doesn't play better, we're not going to make it. And he has not played better since then. Anthony Robinson over the past 2 weeks has 3 assists and 10 turnovers. And that was something that wasn't nearly as big of an issue last season. He's still getting steals at a decently high clip, but it's not to the point that it was a season ago, right? The 3-point percentage has fallen off. The amount of free throws he takes has fallen off. His free throw percentage has fallen off. So it'd be one thing if like he didn't take the step forward, but he was still close to the same player he was a season ago. But he's regressed in almost every way statistically so far this season. And the reason that like he was getting named as a potential NBA draft pick going into this year, CY Young had this term last year. He called him an analytical tsunami, right? Because he could do all of these things at a really high clip, and you just assume like once he was able to stay on the floor for longer periods of time and stay out of foul trouble, like he was going to be able to keep those numbers up, and that just hasn't been the case so far this year. So I honestly think like moving him to the bench and starting T.O. Barrett was the right move, because T.O. Barrett has been outplaying him for a little bit now.
For sure. Drew King of PowerMizzou.com here on the Big Show KTGR. And that, with the way T.O. has played, it clearly is deserving of the starting role at the moment. What in his game have you seen that's gotten better, though? I mean, I guess the shooting part of it is still not quite there, even though he hit a couple threes in the Alabama game, which was, I guess, a nice sign to see. But what's been the major change of what you've seen in him that, like, look, Anthony Robinson hasn't been playing to deserve it, but someone does need to play well enough to deserve it, and very clearly T.O. Barrett has.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about T.O. is throughout his career, he's always had the mindset of, I'm going to do whatever it takes for my team to win, right? And a lot of times in high school when he was playing, on the AAU circuit with really good players or at Link Academy with really good players, he was cool with taking a back seat and letting other guys step up and carry the team. I think what's been really cool about T.O. this season is that he's seen, we need another bucket getter. I'll go be that guy. And I think he's been really effective at it. He's shooting 61.9% on twos this season, which is really effective for a guard. He's tough to stop when he gets downhill. I think he's the best passer on the team. I've always thought he's had really good vision. And so, yeah, it's been surprising because we went into the season thinking like he can be a backup point guard and keep growing behind Ant Robinson. And they've had to kind of throw him into the fire, and he stepped up and delivered for him.
I want to ask you, Drew, about another aspect of the roster that I'm finding to be kind of difficult to figure out exactly what they want to do, but a lot's been made of sort of the Sean Phillips of it all, in the way that when he's out on the floor, the spacing is off, and they haven't been able to figure out a way to maybe get Mark Mitchell to his game, and just like the clog that occurs in the offensive end. Obviously, Phillips has contributed to the improved rebounding of this year's team, and you need that kind of rim protection. But what's your stance on kind of Phillips in the offensive end and how that's sort of clogged things up and made it more difficult for them to find that rhythm offensively?
Yeah, so what was interesting was the first 4 games of SEC play, Mizzou was actually really, really good offensively when him and Mark Mitchell were out there. And so I think it's not necessarily as much of an issue as having those two guys be non-shooters. I think it's more of an issue of like Trent Pierce hasn't really been knocking down his threes lately. Jacob Cruz has kind of fallen off in SEC play. Ant Robinson hasn't been the floor spacer that they hoped he was. And so, and obviously like T.O. Barrett hasn't really been much of a shooter from beyond the arc throughout his career. So you can get by offensively with a front line that doesn't necessarily get respect when they step behind the arc, like Sean Phillips and Mark Mitchell aren't really going to do. But it takes having like real floor spacers that are going to punish opposing defenses when they sag off. And in these last couple of games, that hasn't really been the case for Mizzou's perimeter players.
Drew King of PowerMizzou.com here on the Big Show KTGR. Clearly, Mizzou needs this one this Saturday against Mississippi State as they finish out the first half of the season. But then, or first half SEC play. Second half of SEC play is, like, believe it or not, more challenging. It seems that, some of the road trips they have are not going to be all that easy, even though they're going up against maybe lesser teams according to the metrics. But as we've seen from Mizzou, albeit the Kentucky game still exists, but they've had other opportunities on the road against like-minded teams and just couldn't get the job done. So as you look at the opportunities that Mizzou still has left to grab wins as they kind of dwindle. We just put a % chance yesterday on the show of what's their chance of making the NCAA tournament. If you had to answer that right now based on what's happened at the moment and what's left, what would you say?
It's below 50. I'd probably go somewhere around 25, I think. So the good news for Mizzou is they've got 10 games left, and 5 of them are against teams who are below 500 in SEC play right now. You get Mississippi State twice, you get Oklahoma again, and then you get South Carolina and Texas. And if you can win those games, I think they set themselves up pretty well. But as we know, 3 of those are on the road, and Mizzou hasn't really performed well enough when it goes outside of Mizzou Arena. So those are looking like must-win games. On top of that, you get 5 more home games, but they're against teams like Vanderbilt and Arkansas, Texas A&M. Well, Texas A&M is on the road, but still, you get to play more games at home, but they're against much tougher opponents. So, according to KenPom, Mizzou's played the 4th toughest schedule in the league so far, but it's still going to be really tough the rest of the way. So I think that they kind of need to get to 10-8 in conference play. And I think it's going to be kind of an uphill battle to get those 6 wins.
It seems that way, certainly with how we've watched them throughout a lot of those games against the top opponents when maybe they don't get the shooting clip that they want, or if Mark Mitchell doesn't have the night that we expect him to have. So we'll see how it looks all throughout the rest of conference play in a conference that, look, it still confuses us. We don't know who the best team is. We don't know who the worst team is. LSU maybe has a case for it now, based on how they looked against Mississippi State, who we thought was maybe the worst. And then they go into that building and they win by 16. It's still a hard question to answer of who the best is and who the worst is. Is that good, bad for the conference, you think, Drew? And just how and what for Mizzou's chances of trying to build up that resume without any non-con to lay on what it could mean for them going forward?
Yeah, so I think it's mostly a good thing. It tells me the league isn't too top heavy, and I think the NCAA selection committee will take note that there's pretty quality teams throughout the league. So in that respect, I think it's a good thing for Mizzou, because that should mean that the SEC gets more at-large bids. But again, it also means this is a pretty tough league to play in, and there aren't really any gimmies in this league, because they're going up against a Mississippi State team that looked like the worst team in the league and then absolutely clobbered LSU. So it's going to be tough sledding for Mizzou, but again, the opportunities are there for them. So I think that the SEC is in a good place for sure.
Yeah, Mizzou trying to not suffer the fate that LSU suffered last night as Mississippi State comes to town Saturday. Again, 2:30 tip-off right here on KTGR as Mizzou tries to get back in the win column and conference play. Drew King of PowerMizzou.com. Drew, thanks for joining us. What else can folks see from you over at PowerMizzou.com?
Yeah, so we'll have full coverage of the Mississippi State game. I'll be at a couple more road games throughout the season. I'll be at every home game and all of the postseason. So to read all of our basketball content, you can go to PowerMizzou.com. We've got a 50% off your annual subscription and $1 for your first 2 months if you want to go monthly. We're running that promo right now. And then you can also follow me on Twitter at DrewKing0222_.
There you go. Don't let Twitter hold you down, by the way. I know that was a big battle as well, but you won it. So I appreciate it.
I keep thinking, I have so many tweets that I want to go look up and they just don't exist anymore. It's heartbreaking. It really is.
Man. Well, thanks again for taking the time. Great coverage as always. Go check it out from Drew King over at PowerMizzou.com. Take care, Drew. We'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
You bet. It is 4:43 here on the Big Show, KTGR, and the KTGR app. That's the 100% Twitter's fault, by the way, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, there's stuff that just disappears from the face of the earth and you can't explain it. I know that that's a common thing on there.
So Drew King was able to overcome that eventually. And his work is obviously great over at PowerMizzou.com. So go check it out. Onto the bus coming up next. Tyrann Mathieu had one method of trying to pass the drug test that I don't know if I would recommend, but
I know that I wouldn't.
Yeah, we'll get to that coming up after this.
Now, your local Sports Center update on your total sports station, KTGR.
Good afternoon. I'm Andy Humphrey. This Sports Center update is with Lee's Tire Company. If it's round and rubber, Lee sells it. Go to leestirecompany.com. Mizzou officially announced yesterday hires of 4 new full-time assistant coaches to their staff. John Papuchis, new special teams coordinator and a defensive assistant. Alex Atkins, the new tight ends coach. Chop Harbin, defensive line coach for Mizzou now. And Garrett Riley will be the new quarterbacks coach for the Tigers as they get set to start spring ball within the next couple of months after going 8-5 this past season. Chiefs center Creed Humphrey was named as one of 6 finalists for the NFL's Protector of the Year award. It's a brand new award debuting this season, going out to the league's top offensive linemen, regardless of position. Creed Humphrey in his 5th season starting at center for the Chiefs this past year. Your ABC 17 Storm Track forecast is next here on your total sports station, KTGR.
I'm ABC 17 Storm Track Chief Meteorologist Jessica Hafner. I'm tracking mostly cloudy skies and a chance for a few flurries this evening. It's going to get much colder as we drop down to about 6 degrees by morning. Tomorrow is cold and blustery as we see temperatures only topping out at around 17 degrees. We'll see mostly cloudy skies by afternoon with a chance for a few flurries. By tomorrow night, a weather alert day goes into effect for wind chills, dropping down to around -10. I'm ABC 17 Storm Track Chief Meteorologist Jessica Hafner, and that's your ABC 17 Storm Track forecast on your total sports station, KTGR.
The foundation is set.
Missouri knocks off the #1 team in the nation.
The frame is built.
On the run, Mitchell for the flush, Missouri by 20.
And the gates,
the habits, the response to detail, the execution, all that stuff matters.
Are open.
Drives right baseline to the rim, jams it as he hangs and got fouled.
This is your radio home for Mizzou basketball.
Cruz, here comes the 3. Bang! He splashed it home.
Mid-Missouri's total sports station, KTGR.
Hi, everyone. Andy Humphrey here for Advanced Tree Solutions. They are the tree experts in mid-Missouri. Eric and his team are excellent to work with. I can speak to that from personal experience. We had a dead tree in our yard. We needed it removed. Eric came over, assessed it, gave a fair and honest price, told me the timeline, and he got it done ahead of schedule. And the thing is, you will experience that difference too when you work with him and his team, because they've got 2 jobs: take care of your trees and take care of you. So they make sure that your trees are safe, that you don't have any hanging branches over power lines and things like that. Plus, they also maintain the health of your trees so that they can grow back stronger once the springtime rolls around. And so go and check out AdvancedTreeSolutionsLLC.com to see their full range of services. And don't forget them as the tree experts in mid-Missouri. They serve Columbia, Jefferson City, and Fulton. Go to AdvancedTreeSolutionsLLC.com and give your trees the care they deserve with Advanced Tree Solutions, your tree's best friend.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Gail? When I retired, I just let all my taxes pile up. I had gotten many threatening letters. The one that said they were going to try and take my property was probably the scariest. When I found out that I owed close to $300,000, I was in total shock. It was a bad situation. I didn't know what to do. Then Gail found tax relief advocates. When TRA told me I was only going to owe $368, I just was in total disbelief. If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Gail did and call TRA for a consultation. I was so blessed with TRA. Visit TRA.com or call 800-544-7357. 800-544-7357. That's 800-544-7357.
Hey y'all, it's Molly from Billiards. Wishing you a happy new year. You know I've had my resolution since November, an apple a day. I was very diligent for about a week. We all know that resolutions are hard to keep. So how about a new challenge? Eat a billiards burger a week in 2026. I do.
Looking on down for burgers and beer. Billiards on Broadway.
An apple a day. I'm just going to make a pie.
You know your favorites. Now it's time to put them on the map. Nominations are open for Inside Columbia Magazine's Best of Columbia 2026, now through March 1st. Nominate the businesses and places you love, including Best Mexican Food, Best Spa, Best Steak, Best Hairstylist, Best Lawn Care, and more. You can nominate once per day, so come back and support the businesses you love most. Best of Columbia 2026 starts with you. Nominate today at InsideColumbia.net.
We're moving faster and faster these days with limited time to make an impact on potential customers. Hi, this is Jimmy at Pro Designs. For nearly 2 decades, we've worked with companies to build strong brands. At Pro Designs, our team can create a vehicle wrap to drive market share, growth, and profits. Connect with your customers on the go, on the road, and on the job site.
Visit us on the web at PRODEZIGNS.com.
Come see them at their locations in Eldon or Columbia off Rangeline Street and I-70.
Pro Designs, but better than a billboard.
They can't shoot it straight on the golf course, but they can shoot straight on the biggest sports stories in mid-Missouri. Back to Andy and Brendan on The Big Show on KTGR.
So Tyrann Mathieu did what to avoid getting popped on a drug test?
Yeah, I don't know if it actually worked, but he talked about it on a recent podcast that back when he was at LSU, he decided, I don't know if he saw it on the internet. TikTok wasn't a thing at the time, so like can't blame that. That if you mix some bleach into your Coca-Cola and drink it, that maybe you can avoid the failed drug test. He said his insides were erupting is what it felt like. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Just as a promo here, a little PSA, don't drink bleach to
no
failing your drug test at LSU or anywhere else for that matter. I just saw that and I thought that sounds probably like, how are you even still here with us, Tyrann Mathieu? But yeah, don't do that.
That's if you learn nothing else from this show, at least take that home. Like,
yeah, you can take that one with you. That one's free.
Don't drink bleach with Coke. Is the message of Thursday's Big Show on the 29th day of January, 2026. Even if you don't take anything else away, be sure to remember that. I found this story also to be kind of unbelievable, kind of NFL adjacent. I guess this is the Tyrann Mathieu was a college thing. This an NFL thing that Dan Orlovsky shared on our morning show here on KTGR on Sportsmanlike from ESPN Radio. Evan Cohen, Michelle Smallman, Chris Canty, Dan Orlovsky, the ESPN analyst, shared a story that, well, I'm not sure this particular coach would have wanted it to be shared, but here you go. Dan Orlovsky shared it.
I was on the sideline as the backup, and then we would relay the play into the starting quarterback. I don't know why the mechanism was like that. Yeah. But we had a moment, honest to God, true story, zero exaggeration, where there was a change of possession, punt, commercial. We come out of the commercial. Play clock is starting. I'm waiting for the play call, and all I hear is the coach, our play caller, our offensive coordinator, fell asleep in the middle of a game and didn't get a call in.
No. Yeah. So what'd you do?
I just eventually panicked and called something to. Thankfully, the starting quarterback was a veteran as well. But for all the people who are like, why were you guys bad in Detroit?
I guess that would be a reason why, huh?
Brendan, can we find out who the offensive coordinator was?
Oh, interesting.
For Detroit, back when Dan Orlovsky was a backup and the starter was, quote, a veteran, end quote.
Okay.
Yeah, let's try and figure this out. Do some investigative.
So Orlovsky was there. He registered stats in 05 and 08. I guess he just didn't probably play in the 2 years in between. I mean, who's the starting quarterback in 06 for the Lions?
Was that? Well, it kind of speaks to why they were so bad because we have no clue. Was that still Joey Harrington?
I gotta go dig into this.
That wasn't still Joey Harrington, was it? That would have been sooner. or earlier.
Well, I mean, he was there for 4 years. Dante Culpepper was there.
That's
in
right.
08, but Orlovsky was actually playing most of that year.
Yeah.
John Kitna.
Oh, that's
in
right.
07.
Yeah.
06 was Kitna, so maybe it would have been one of those years.
Kitna played for a long
Harrington
time.
and Jeff Garcia were the two guys that saw the bulk of the playing time in 2005. So it would have maybe been one of those years. You've got Greg Olson, Ted Tolner, Mike Martz in 06 and 07.
I mean,
that feels, if I may, my money's on Mike Martz. Even though Mike Martz is an accomplished coach in his own right, just feels like something he might do. Just kind of nod off a little bit. I don't know. That's funny. Yeah, 2 of the 4 years you're talking about was, now granted, Orlovsky didn't register a stat in those years, so I don't know if he was there for all that. I guess he was, but yeah, man, that's could have been him, I suppose.
You just sent a lot of people Googling for Detroit offensive coordinator.
Just a couple minutes to figure out.
06. Yeah, there you go.
He was with the Lions for those years, but I don't know. Again, was he game day active? Would he have been in that role? Maybe so, to be the backup quarterback calling the play. That's certainly a plausible concept. I'm going Mike Martz. That's my final.
I mean, why not? And for nothing else, like, kind of a weird system. Why do you need the middleman? Like, why does the backup need to relay it from the OC to the starting quarterback out there? Just cut that out. Like, I guess we've leveled up from that.
Yeah, that is a bad system.
Yeah. I am excited to see who ultimately wins this one. Maybe it'll be Creed Humphrey. Who knows? He's got some stiff competition for it, but he was named a finalist, one of 6 finalists for the NFL Protector of the Year award. It's the first year that the NFL has given out this particular award. It'll be handed out in NFL Honors a week from tonight, but Creed Humphrey, like, he's been the constant on that line for sure. And they paid him in the offseason. They had a lot of injury issues on the edges of the offensive line, and that clearly is a good amount of what led to the Chiefs finishing the way that they did. But Creed Humphrey is absolutely deserving of this based on how he's played. And so we'll see if he has a chance of winning that one.
Yeah, that would be cool to see. And this is a fun week where you kind of get into learning about some of the awards and who ended up getting what. So that's going to be a lot of fun to kind of see that all play out.
So NFL Honors next Thursday night, right before Super Bowl weekend, 875-KTGR if you want to call or text us with your thoughts on Mizzou hoops. Had Drew King on last segment. You can catch that on the podcast a little bit later. We'll have our SEC basketball tiers coming up in a bit. An update from last week. How much did Mizzou fall based on, well, that loss a couple nights ago against Alabama? We'll have our updated SEC basketball tiers at 5:05. And Kansas City Star columnist was one of the voters that did not vote to elect Bill Belichick into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year. He had an article about it come out. We'll discuss our thoughts on that article at 5:25 here on The Big Show.
Hi, my name's Robin Fletcher. I've smoked for 46 years. I went to a seminar in March 27 and seen Mark. My best friend came with me. We both went to it, and neither one of us smoked a cigarette in almost 7.5 months. I took my 3 sisters and my brother-in-law and my sister's best friend and them went. None of them have smoked a cigarette, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
My name is Jen Carpenter. I went to a Mark Patrick seminar, the Stop Smoking, and it worked. A friend of mine also went, and he still no longer smokes, and it was just amazing.
Lose weight or stop smoking with Hypnosis Guaranteed, only $59.99 or your money back. Don't just cut down, but stop smoking once and for all or your money back. Stop Smoking Hypnosis, 8 p.m. on Tuesday, February 3rd at the Capitol Plaza Hotel and Convention Center in Jefferson City, or 8 p.m. on Wednesday, February 4th at the Holiday Inn, Columbia East in Columbia. Registration 30 minutes before. Sign up at markpatrickseminars.com. That's markpatrickseminars.com.
Before the sun comes up and long after it sets, ABC 17 News and Storm Track Weather keep working for you, gathering the information your family needs to take on the day, alerting you to breaking news and health and safety concerns in our area, plus tracking the latest weather conditions to help you plan ahead. It's everything you need to know from the team you trust most. ABC 17 News and Storm Track Weather, where the news comes first.
Paradise doesn't have to be far away. Sometimes it's a quiet walk through a state park. Sometimes it's your favorite takeout and a night in. At Shangri-La, we believe that cannabis belongs in those everyday moments, not as an escape, but as part of living well. That's why we offer 20% off select category every day, plus 20% off store-wide every Sunday. Thoughtful products, honest guidance, real value. Shangri-La, discover paradise. Learn more at shangriladispensaries.com.
KTGR AM Columbia, KTGR FM Fulton Columbia, K286CL Columbia, in Missouri's total sports station. KTGR.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. This just in. ESPN's Adam Schefter's reporting the Eagles are hiring Packers quarterbacks coach Sean Mannion as their offensive coordinator. The 33-year-old's coach for just 2 years. He was an active player as recently as 2023. Quarterback, one of the main topics discussed by a pair of new NFL head coaches at their introductory press conferences today. Baltimore's Jesse Minter spoke of looking forward to building a connection with Lamar Jackson, molding a team around the two-time league MVP. Buffalo's Joe Brady did likewise with Josh Allen, and the reigning NFL MVP anxious to play for his new coach.
I'm very looking forward to Joe and everything that entails with him becoming the head coach and guys getting behind him and rallying behind him and understanding his vision, because I do believe in it. I do believe in what he had talked about in his meetings, what he's talked about really the last few years that he's been in the quarterback room, of just the mindset that he has.
Josh Allen, he also said he recently had surgery for a broken bone in his foot, expects a quick recovery, and to be fully ready for the start of spring practice.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business's needs, from quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options. Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
From Faroe.
15 to the 10, to the house.
Bush.
Back to the wall, and it's got her.
And Arrowhead.
Touchdown, Kansas City.
To your speakers.
This is the big show, baby.
Get fresh takes on the biggest sports stories in mid-Missouri. Right now, this is The Big Show with Andy and Brendan on KTGR.
Well, we'll have another update on our SEC basketball tiers coming up in a few minutes. Had our first version of them last week. Every Thursday throughout the season, we'll update them. Did Mizzou fall based on what we've seen over the last week from them? Give us a call or a text with where you think they should land on our tiers. 875-KTGR here on The Big Show. And then at 5:25, so Via Gregorian, Kansas City Star columnist, longtime with the Kansas City Star, he was one of the voters that did not elect Bill Belichick into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And he explained why in a recent column in the Star within the last day or so. Do we agree with the reasoning? And kind of talk more about our thoughts on Bill Belichick surprisingly being left out this year on his first time on the ballot for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. 875-KTGR. If you want to call or text us with thoughts on that. But first, it's 5 o'clock.
It's time for the Top 5 at 5 on The Big Show. Number 1.
If you want to trade away for curtain number 1, you can have curtain 1.
SEC basketball tiers. How do we update Mizzou's standing after a week in which they required 2 buzzer beaters to win at home over Oklahoma, which I've said I really wasn't that upset about, because even though they should ideally handle that matchup a little more easily, it was too much fun to even be mad. But it was also a week in which Mizzou showed us what truly bottoming out in a game looks like, similar to their non-conference misadventures in December. It wasn't the best of weeks for Mizzou, so how do we respond to that? We'll see, but I'm not really looking forward to these new SEC basketball tiers coming up.
Number 2.
Number 2, your timing is impeccable.
But we did talk about something to be excited about, which is the Mizzou football transfer, other than Austin Simmons, because I think he would be number one with a bullet. Who's the transfer, though, other than the QB that we are most excited or intrigued by? My answer was Robert Woodyard. I think it's going to be important to get that production at linebacker vacated by Josiah Trotter, who is heading to the NFL draft. And I feel like Woodyard, coming from that Auburn defense where he was very impactful for them, could be the answer there. And certainly in that game against Missouri, he was impactful. I always love kind of seeing that and knowing, okay, Eli Drinkwitz probably decided that day, I got to get this guy on my defense. But I do think for as many different things about the offense as I'm looking forward to, I think it's going to be a more balanced unit. The defense is the side of the ball that I think is going to need that little extra jolt, kind of a reversal from what we saw last year. But Woodyard is my guy to be able to make an impact.
Number 3.
There's Jordan for 3. Yes!
Joe Brady had his introductory press conference as Buffalo Bills head coach, and he's made the entire Keon Coleman saga even more dizzying. According to one reporter from the presser, Brady revealed that he did stand on the table to draft Keon Coleman. Remember, owner Terry Pagula told us that the Coleman thing was on the coaching staff, which he used as a reason to fire McDermott, promote Brandon Beane, who's supposedly was not at fault for the horrific decision, right? Okay, so Beane and Pagula then sanctioned hiring the guy who's claiming responsibility for Keon Coleman. I actually think it was a good PR move by Brady to fall on the sword of the mess that had happened previously, but kind of an interesting situation still.
Number 4.
Oh, shanked it.
Yeah, we talked about the Belichick thing, and it ended up being a huge topic of conversation in sports media. Obviously, we all agree Belichick is a Hall of Famer, but the explanation for Vahe Gregorian and why he did not vote for him as a voter, I think actually makes a lot of sense. We'll get to it coming up in a bit.
Number 5.
Where's the 5 fingers? Say to the face. Slap.
Okay, so Nick Sirianni needs good coordinators. They're hiring Sean Mannion, who was actually drafted in the final Rams draft when they were in St. Louis.
That's the Big Show's Top 5 at 5 on KTGR.
875-KTGR. Let's call or text us. Blast from the past, right?
That's crazy. That was the last, I think it was the last Rams draft that I actually could care about, right? They were, they were drafted Todd Gurley that year in St. Louis, and Sean Mannion was a quarterback selected. And I got to be honest, didn't realize he was the quarterback's coach for the Packers, but apparently he's a rising star in the industry. But now he'll be the one that they have to prop up Nick Sirianni with, right? Like if he's a good coordinator, then they can continue to say how great Sirianni is when the Eagles win a bunch of games, even though their locker room is consistently in turmoil. Yeah. So there you go.
Well, and then Sean Mannion will be, I mean, he'll do well next year because it's kind of this like 1 year on, 1 year off type thing for the Eagles. And then next year he'll be head coach. There you go.
That's a quick rise. Quick ascent.
He'll be the Bengals head coach.
Oh, good call. That's not even that crazy. Not even that crazy of a call, because that would be the guy that I think gets canned a year from now.
You heard it here first.
Zach Taylor.
Here on the Big Show. KTGR and the KTGR. Yeah, I give Zach Taylor 7 weeks.
Next season?
Into the season, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
I thought you were going to fire him in like April.
Oh, I mean, probably should have. And you know, my first call would be to Sean Mannion.
There you go.
Yeah. You know what? Just bypass the whole Eagles thing. Come be our head coach.
Cut out the middleman.
Exactly. We know what's coming down the pipe. We'll just, cut that all out. All right. Our SEC basketball tiers need an update. So we'll go to that. I think
reluctantly.
Sort of. Florida. I mean, Florida did lose to Auburn this past week. And
yeah, Auburn is a team that might need to get a little bit more credit as we're trying to figure out the middle of the SEC. That's a good win for them, but I don't know. How much can we punish Florida for it? So you had Florida Vanderbilt as your top tier last week.
Yeah.
I included Alabama in that, and I don't really feel like that is something I regret at this point. They did lose to Tennessee, but they popped Missouri. So, I don't know. I feel like they're still pretty far up there. But maybe, the reality about the very top of the SEC is that it's not as elite as it was a year ago. But I guess the question would be, does Vanderbilt separate themselves this week with the way that they played compared to the other teams like a Florida or like a Bama or anybody else from behind them?
No, not really, because I think the past results should still count and Florida still beat them. So I think that brings Florida back into this to still stay somewhat even with Vanderbilt.
Yeah, and by the way, they almost doubled up South Carolina.
Oh,
They was 95-48.
Yeah, blasted them and
score last night.
Vanderbilt blasted two teams this weekend. So like that,
Vanderbilt beat Kentucky by 1 million. Like
that's a good one,
pretty impressive one,
no doubt. I'm gonna keep them on the same tier for now. I guess I should answer the question though of should anybody else join them, and maybe Alabama is the team to consider here.
And so like you have a situation this week. I'm gonna leave Alabama in my top tier, even though they lost at home to Tennessee. I probably need to bump Tennessee up a little bit. Perhaps your second tier last week was Arkansas, A&M, and Bama. Does Arkansas merit consideration? I don't really think so after the week that they had. They kind of struggled with Oklahoma and kind of struggled with LSU. Got both wins, but I'm not like really looking for reasons to
deserving to stay exactly where they are. I think
so for the Hogs. A&M, let me check out what they've been doing recently. Well, I was going to try to, and that didn't pop up.
Blasted Mississippi State and South Carolina.
Yeah, so
both
that's not really
games.
a week where I've learned anything about that team. They did what
well,
they were
actually,
supposed to.
they only had one game last week, just a blistering win over South Carolina by 23
and
points.
They didn't have a midweek this
right.
In the current week that we're in.
So I still, for me, not much reason to drop them, but maybe someone should join the group, and I can listen to Tennessee, who I assume is in the next tier.
Yeah, Tennessee was in that next tier for both of us. It was kind of a large tier, and I think they had a pretty good week to where I do feel like bumping them up. Of course, so they won yesterday at Georgia in overtime, which, by the way, did you see the ending to this game? Perchance you might have seen it on a social media clip. Georgia had the ball down 3, and it ended with, I believe it was Millender, a layup with 0.6 seconds to go. It's like he just lost track of either the score or how much time was left, and thought, and it was very strange to do it. It's very strange to do it because it wasn't like it was a quick possession. It was this drawn out possession, but the whole thing is clock winding down. They're operating like there's something off on the floor, that not everybody was on the same page. But yeah, he takes a gimme layup, like nobody was guarding him, because at that point that
you don't want to foul him, right?
For Tennessee, the best part of it all, though, the spread on the game was Georgia plus 1.5. So
oh no!
So Georgia does
the
cover.
Thing
I
is,
think was the result of that.
I won't say it, but
I wasn't making any implications on that, but like that,
I won't say
it's just crazy.
I mean,
it's a bad beat, is all it is. If you had the other side as a bad beat, but yeah, that is what happened to end that game. But anyway, ultimately an impressive result. Anytime you win on the road against teams that are anywhere near the middle of the conference, it's a good win. Tennessee did that, and they did it twice, really, because they beat Alabama on the road. So I'm certainly inclined, and I try to use Ken Palm with this as sort of a guide to say, like, am I drastically off base with anything? I would say I'm bumping up Tennessee to that second tier, and there's an argument to be made that they're closer to the first tier. But I had a solo job with Arkansas in my second tier last week. I will make Tennessee a new resident there in tier 2, because I think that they're very similar in that Arkansas range, where like I think these are second weekend type of teams. If things go, well, you wouldn't rule out Final Four for either of them, but that's kind of where I'm at, is like Arkansas, Tennessee, both teams that can make legitimate noise in March Madness, and it wouldn't be an upset for them to do so.
I think that's right. So second tier includes, for me at least, Arkansas, Texas A&M, Alabama. I will say Tennessee should be there too.
Okay, so you're sticking Florida Vandy though as your top tier.
That's still. I was both those two at the top.
I was going to defend my inclusion. I had Alabama in before this week. I'll keep them there because I think it's maybe more about Tennessee than Alabama. I'm also recognizing that like Alabama whooped Mizzou, and I'm not saying Mizzou is like the cream of the crop to where you should be proud of that. But like we got a glimpse of Alabama at their best, and I feel like Alabama at their best is dangerous to anybody in the country. So I'll continue to say top tier. if I were going to make a change, I think it would be Vandy in the top tier by themselves. But we've seen enough. I don't want to get too much prisoner of the moment. We've seen enough from Vandy where they do fall short at times as well, to where it's like Vandy, Bama, Florida, probably all could make a Final Four. I don't know that any will be favored to do so, but they're all in the same top tier for me right now.
And I mean, the argument for Alabama is that, look, right or wrong, objectively speaking, they're a better team with Charles Bediako. Like,
yeah, I don't know how much to like factor that in and weigh that in necessarily, but you're right. I mean,
he's produced both games.
He's been impactful. He's been good at the free throw line for a big. That's obviously something we're struggling to see at Mizzou. So yeah, I mean, he made an impact in both games, and certainly against Mizzou he did.
So those are our top two tiers. Tier 3, I think we had. Did we have Kentucky here?
I had Kentucky. I had Georgia, Auburn. I also had A&M in Texas.
Okay.
And boy,
did we pass up Auburn's chance to maybe move up to tier 2?
Well, and that's what I wanted to get to, is kind of scrub through some of these tier 3 teams to see if there's anybody else that merits jumping up. I think they probably worth considering with the week they had.
Like, it went on the road and beat Florida, and then beat Texas at home.
Which I think Texas I really do think Texas is a good team. Like, I won't drop Texas from tier 3 this week, despite the loss to Auburn. But I think you might be right. Like, is Auburn a step behind my other teams that are in tier 2? I think they probably are, but I'm still high enough on them to say that, like, yeah, I think I don't want to get too restrictive with tier 2, because again, I think it's a year where the SEC is a little bit less top heavy, but those teams that are still in the first, that would be 6 for me if I went Bama, Florida, Vandy, and then Arkansas, Tennessee, Auburn. I think those are probably the 6 best teams in the conference, and I'm still waiting to see on A&M, but A&M's going to be just outside that in the 3rd tier for me still.
I'll move Auburn up, so I guess I've got like a 5-team 2nd tier,
which is fine. Last week it kind of felt like the 3rd tier was the larger tier for both of us. I guess how would you describe tier 2 in your mind? Because I've kind of said what I did with it, where it's like if Auburn, Tennessee, or Arkansas, or any of the teams above them make the second weekend, I think they'll be seated, in the 4 to 6 range, to where that won't be really a stunner. And like they're capable of making a run if they really put it together at the end.
I agree. That's the type of team that they are. Things go really well, and they're probably Elite 8 and maybe on the edge of Final Four conversation. But things have to really break their way. There's a lot more elite teams across the nation in college basketball than maybe what we're talking about just in this tier 2. But the right matchup could allow them to find a way up even further.
And so let me make you scrub this one. A&M you had in tier 2 last week. They had the week where, as we said, they only played one game and they won it by a bunch. Does A&M reflect in your mind similarities to Auburn, Bama, Arkansas, and Tennessee in terms of that characteristic? Are you ready to go there on them? The reason I ask is, like, they're still 33rd in KenPom, but they've only lost 4 games. They might just be, the metrics might just be a little bit behind them on them. I have A&M more in that kind of Kentucky, Georgia range. But obviously it was a week where A&M didn't do anything wrong.
It is.
I think now the strength of your tier 2, though, is notable in terms of the rewarding some of the teams that have been able to move up.
It's a team that, similar to Mizzou, has nothing to speak for in non-con. A&M.
That's tough.
Nothing. As far as wins, they've played some tough teams, but double-digit losses in non-con to all of those power conference opponents. Their only power conference wins, Florida State and Pittsburgh. Both of them were away from home, but still not quite what you're looking for as real feathers in the cap, but have done excellent damage to make up for it. And so
I am questioning that a little bit. They are interesting. They've had a lot of close wins, which is, to be commended. They beat Auburn on the road by 2. That's probably their most impressive conference win. They took Tennessee to overtime on the road as well, but ended up losing that game. They have a 4-point win at Texas, a 3-point win at home against LSU, beat Oklahoma at home by 7. they've kind of had, it feels like, and they beat Mississippi State. That was their game last Wednesday, beat South Carolina over the weekend. Maybe they've had their easier stretch of schedule because they have to go to Bama, host Florida. We go there on the 11th of February, and then they go to Vandy. That's like, other than Mizzou, that's a 4-game stretch where they have the 3 tier 1 teams in the conferences. I've got it ranked. So we'll
find out about them more. Yeah, sure.
We're really going to find out.
I just
about
that, man, when you play well in this league, you should get credit for it. It is maybe an indictment, though, of like, well, maybe you can only play well against these teams. And then once you get to the NCAA tournaments, which they'll be seated fairly high if they keep doing well in the SEC, but are they prone to a 12 seed picking them off or something like that?
That actually feels like a really good comp because their resume could get them into a place where they are in that kind of 5 seed range conceivably. But I'm going to be very interested to see what they do against some of those big teams, because right now they are in first place in the conference. They're 6-1, but I think they're paper Aggies. Like, I'm not ready to give it to them. What would you say if they're 6-1? Let's play this game out real quick.
Yeah.
6-1. I'll go through and you tell me win or loss for them. At Georgia.
Loss.
At Bama.
Win.
Host Florida.
Loss.
Mizzou at home.
Win.
Go to the Vandy.
Loss.
Host Ole Miss.
Win.
OU.
Win.
At OU. At Arkansas.
Who?
I like the Hogs pretty easily there. I think you just like A&M more than me. I haven't seen enough yet. I wouldn't have to hesitate on that one.
They don't fold on the road is the thing. Like
they haven't folded. They haven't folded in any of their games in conference play. They just have only beat up on the bad teams.
It's hard when I haven't seen them fail yet. Like I mean, technically they failed against Tennessee, but that was a double overtime game on the road. Sure. I guess we'll say loss there. Where am I at?
So host Texas.
They'll win that one.
Host Kentucky.
Win.
And then at LSU.
Win.
So you've got them 7-4 the rest of the way, which would be a 13-5.
13-5,
which would be
double bye.
You're probably talking about a 4 seed or better in the NCAA tournament. I'm gonna say maybe like 11-7 on Texas A&M. That's my
okay, but that still wouldn't be all that bad, right? Like
no, but I think it's more of like we talk. They didn't do anything in non-con. We agree.
Yeah.
Nothing impressive, and we've talked about Mizzou, who did nothing in non-con, needing to get to 10-8 just to make the tournament.
Yeah.
So 11-7 is not really a lot above that. I think that could be the difference between like a 7 or maybe even an 8 seed for A&M, because when you look at it, they might not end up with a ton of impressive wins. I'm calling them out. Last year, Georgia was the team that I kind of called out as fraudulent.
Okay.
When we were giving them a lot of hype. I'm doing it now with A&M. I think they're gonna fall a little bit, which is why when I look at my tiers here, I'm going Alabama, Florida, Vandy. Tier 2, Arkansas, Tennessee, Auburn. Tier 3, A&M, Georgia, and Kentucky, Texas. I don't really think I can move any of those teams. You know, I could move Kentucky down and then use it as a reason to move Mizzou down, but I guess I won't do it just yet.
No. There's still a whole lot of talent that will probably win out in some key games later in the year as teams maybe start dealing with injuries and such. And then like that, Kentucky will eventually turn it on.
They've got 8-9 game written all over them though, I think this year.
Oh, like as far as seed?
As a seed.
Maybe.
They're gonna be sandwiched into something like that.
NCAA tournament committee won't let that happen. But
Andy, they've got a ton of still difficult games on the board, and they have struggled.
But again, this is kind of what they do. Like they kind of struggle out of the gate, and then once you get to February and March, again, the fact that they have so many decorated players that they can turn to, like I think once you start to get to those moments when rotations start to shorten up. And maybe they have somebody drop from their lineup, but they can still put out another 5-star kid there. Like it's eventually Kentucky will be a team that you have to be really careful about.
you do have to be careful about them, but they're 5-3. Some of their remaining games include at Arkansas, hosting Tennessee, at Florida, at Auburn, hosting Vanderbilt, and hosting Florida, as well as at A&M. That's 7.
No, I know
really
it's tough. Yeah.
I haven't glanced at a schedule remaining yet and found a tougher one than Kentucky's. That's a behemoth. And if they were to go, 3-4 in those 7 games, pick up some of the other wins. Like, I don't think I listed off that they still play Auburn. There's some games in there that they host Georgia. You have to still do that. So they could very well be closer to 10-8 than anything else themselves, but time will tell. And like I said, with Texas, I like them, but you get, good result, bad result. They're kind of in that middle where I think Kentucky, Georgia, A&M, Texas are probably all NCAA tournament teams, but that's really all I'm comfortable saying about them right now. So that's how I'm viewing tier 3.
Okay. So my tier 3, I had Kentucky, Texas. Did I have LSU here?
And Georgia remaining is the only one remaining that you
I think they probably stay there. Georgia does.
Okay. I think so.
Yeah, their last week wasn't great.
I mean, anytime you're going into overtime, I'm not going to fault you against a team like Tennessee. They did lose pretty handily on the road to Texas, though. So that's a team to keep an eye on when they go on the road. Like, they'll play LSU coming up next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, where that's a road game that they probably ought to win if they're going to separate themselves. But based on the way they lost at Texas by 20, we'll have to see what that ends up looking like.
Go to our SEC basketball tiers, 875 KTGR. So Mizzou, I think I had in the next tier, 4th tier.
LSU, Mizzou, Ole Miss are the teams we got to have to figure out what to do with them. And I think LSU is poor enough that, like, I'm not trying to reward them and say, like, my goal would be punish Mizzou because I'm down on Mizzou, right? But I still think, despite Mizzou having lost to this team, I think Mizzou's got a better group than LSU. And so I'm not sure.
LSU just lost at home by 14 to Mississippi State.
Yeah, which maybe means, like, we should not clown Mississippi State as much, or it means that, like, man, LSU is not.
I think we should clown LSU. Like, that's what we should.
Okay, but then we also probably have to clown Mizzou, who lost to this team. You know what I mean? Like,
well, Mizzou has also beaten teams and LSU. That is LSU's only win is against Mizzou in conference play. They've had chances.
Let's throw Ole Miss into this conversation. They lost respectably at Kentucky by 9 on Saturday.
They'll stay here.
That's the only game they played this week. Yeah. So is this still a tier where Missouri is in the same tier as these teams? It's Mizzou, Ole Miss, LSU,
Mizzou,
no movement.
Ole Miss, well, but then the next tier is the last tier, right?
That's how we had it last week.
Oklahoma,
Mississippi State, South Carolina.
Well, look, LSU has now lost to South Carolina and Mississippi State.
Yeah, Mizzou lost to LSU, Ole Miss, and almost did it to Oklahoma, though.
I get it.
But you're kind of using the fact that Mizzou does have good wins to its credit, which is fair. That's an upside that they do possess.
Yeah. I'm going to do it. LSU is in the bottom tier.
All right. I like it when you get punitive.
Yeah. And then Mississippi State, like, look, good win, but not much else to show for it. They went to Texas and won, which is pretty nice. In fact, maybe should we credit them for it? They've also beaten Oklahoma.
Who?
Mississippi State.
Yeah, I think the way I'm crediting them is by not burying them anywhere, like anything below or punitive. Like, they're going to stay with South Carolina. To me, they're going to stay with, like, Oklahoma doesn't quite get to rise up. The crazy loss to Mizzou, another close loss to Arkansas. Like, Oklahoma might be better than these teams, but they've all kind of had similar flaws to where they're all the bottom tier to me. I just don't think there's anybody that's just truly horrendous in the SEC this year. The way I view LSU, Oklahoma, Mississippi State, and South Carolina, would be shocked by them making a run to the tournament. I just don't think they're going to have the horses or the resume to do it. I'm kind of counting them out mentally, and so that's my the bottom tier that I would have. Well, that's the bottom tier that you had, actually. LSU probably does, based on that, deserve to go down and join them. I'm still keeping, like, Mizzou and Ole Miss in a place where I'm leaving the door open, I guess, to be able to make the tournament, but I really don't hold Missouri in much higher esteem than than these other teams. Yeah, I mean,
the thing is, I'm baffled by LSU's metrics.
Because they're where are they in KenPom?
They're 50. Mizzou in relation is 59.
Yeah.
Look, I know they lost to them, but LSU, that's their only win in SEC play. They have lost to teams worse than them, and their only non-con win is against SMU, 37th in a semi-home game.
And Mississippi State is down in the 80s still. It's not like they decided, KenPom's like, yeah, we're going to bump up Mississippi State for beating LSU, and they're just all better than we thought they were. Yeah, I still think the nature of this conference is that the teams at the bottom can beat some of the teams in the middle. The one thing Mizzou has going for it is that Mizzou didn't beat the teams in the middle. It beat the teams at the top, at least in one instance with Florida, and another where you could kind of count Auburn toward that, and maybe even a flyer on Kentucky. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Mizzou is not really like those other teams, but they might be soon. Is my fear.
We'll see. Give us your SEC basketball tiers. We put Mizzou in the 4th tier behind, I believe, 10 other teams at least, maybe 11.
Yeah, 10 exactly, I think, in both of our cases.
Yeah.
Which is, again, those are the 10 that I think can and likely will make the tournament. Texas probably has to do a little bit more. Georgia probably has to do a little bit more to get that secured. But that's really it. That's really all I see for the SEC. And Missouri certainly on the outside looking in with a shot at it. Ole Miss, I think, is good enough to go on a run and do it. But Ole Miss and Missouri are in that same tier for me because I don't see either of them making the run.
875-KTGR. Give us a call or a text with what you think about Mizzou and our SEC basketball tiers. We'll come back with our thoughts on Vahan Gregorian's explanation in the Kansas City Star of why he did not vote for Bill Belichick in the Pro Football Hall of Fame vote this time around. That's next.
The Big Show with Andy and Brendan continues next on your total sports station, KTGR.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sticklin McDonald.
And I'm Charlie Sticklin with the Sticklin and Sticklin Law Firm.
And I'm Mizzou Softball's Natalie Touche. At Sticklin and Sticklin, all we do is personal injury.
We've earned millions for our clients since 1991.
On the diamond, I trust my team. Off the diamond, I trust Sticklin and Sticklin. Don't let the insurance companies strike you out. Let Sticklin and Sticklin go to bat for you. Sticklin and Sticklin, it's a home run.
As we get into the heart of basketball season, 1851 Underground Tap and Grill wants to remind you whether you need a place to grab a bite after a local high school or college game, or you want to plop down with some friends and watch some of that college conference action on TV, they've got a spot for you. Your favorite cold beer or cocktail and delicious appetizer or dinner options on the menu. Check them out on Facebook or at 1851underground.com. It's no secret that it is underground. 1851 Underground Tap and Grill in the historic Brick District, downtown Fulton.
Hey, this is Lisa Stofan. Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking with hypnosis. Hypnosis eliminated my desire for soda and fast food, made me want to exercise, and I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. My energy level exploded. I went to another session to deal with some other problem foods, and I lost another 10 pounds. In fact, I brought my husband, and he lost weight, and his cholesterol and blood pressure improved. My friend lost 20 pounds her first 2 months.
Oh my, what are you waiting for? Lose the weight or stop smoking with Hypnosis, guaranteed only $59.99. Hypnosis designed to destroy unwanted cravings, late day eating binges, boredom eating, stress eating. That's right. Hypnosis Tuesday, February 3rd at the Capitol Plaza Hotel and Convention Center in Jefferson City, or Wednesday, February 4th at the Holiday Inn Columbia East in Columbia. Weight loss hypnosis 5:30. Stop smoking hypnosis 8 o'clock. Register at markpatrickseminars.com.
Hey, y'all, it's Molly from Billiards. Everybody I know is happy to say goodbye to 2025. So we're hoping for a fix in 26. And we hope you'll come see us at Billiards. That may sound cheesy to some of y'all, but who cares? At Billiards, we love cheese. We love bacon, too. And cheese and bacon make everything better. We believe that to be true.
Look on down for burgers and beer. Billiards, home ground way.
We serve $5.25.
Hi, we're Midway Electric. When winter hits, electrical issues can turn serious fast, at home or at your business. That's why you need a trusted local team that shows up, solves the problem, and stands behind the work. From whole home generators and security systems to everyday service and repairs, Midway Electric has you covered. And now through January, get $500 off a whole home generator installation to keep you powered up no matter the weather. Midway Electric, powered by people with pride. MidwayElectricInc.com.
This is the year she gets an upgraded diamond, the year that dad finally gets his retirement watch, and the year that your daughter graduates, so you give her the necklace she's always dreamed of. Family Pawn is not your traditional pawn shop, but they are your secret to saving big on stunning jewelry for every occasion. Family Pawn, where you'll find timeless treasures for a fraction of the cost. FamilyPawn.com.
Not your traditional pawn shop. Family Pawn.
Tired of calling Andy and Brendan? So are their wives. Then shoot them a text right now. 573-875-KTGR and become part of the Big Show.
Got a text in 875-KTGR from Aaron. Sean Mannion from Oregon State. Yes, that's Sean Mannion. New OC, or I guess interviewing to be OC. Could soon be OC of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a blast from the past.
Really is. I didn't even know he was retired, to be honest with you.
I remember him most from his college days, honestly.
Yeah.
He was great at Oregon State. Love that.
I just remember thinking it was cool that the Rams drafted a quarterback, and I was like, I don't know if it's a good pick, but third round.
It was at least nice to see, you know. Good to know
by the way,
they're capable of it.
It wasn't a good pick, and it didn't really matter. So,
look, it was just the effort to tank the team once it got to LA, right?
Pretty much.
Hopefully.
Although they instantly went out and drafted Jared Goff, so they were like trying right away after they left. So whatever. Yeah. It's been 10 years. I'll get over it in like 50 more.
2076.
2076. I'll let you know.
Very good. 875-KTGR. Call or text us with thoughts on our SEC basketball tiers. We think there's 10 teams above Mizzou right now. We put them in our fourth tier. Look, that probably won't do much to change that either based on how they play against Mississippi State. Like, you should win this game. But then the next one you do at South Carolina, I mean, also one that you should probably win. It's viewed as a toss-up, but now that you're in the case of, okay, you can't let too many toss-up games go by the wayside anymore because you're 4-4 in the SEC. You got to be above 500 to actually have a resume that impresses. That's a must-win. So 2 must-win games for Mizzou in the next week. And look, I would predict that if once we do this a week from now, that even if they win both those games, I don't know if I move them up. I'm like, okay, you probably should be doing that.
That's what they ought to be doing. I agree. That doesn't suddenly vault them into the tier where they're an NCAA tournament team, because that's what I think about everybody in the tier above them. So no, I don't think I would either.
So we'll see how they do in those games. Like maybe they just absolutely run both teams off the floor. Maybe we reconsider, but I don't know. We'll see what Mizzou looks like again Saturday, 2:30 tip at Mizzou Arena. You can hear it here on KTGR if you can't make it out. Okay, so lots of controversy, vitriol spewed over Bill Belichick not making it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in his first chance on the ballot. Did not get at least 40 of 50 votes from the voting committee for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And Vahe Gregorian, Kansas City Star columnist, been on this show before, is one of those voters. He was one of those voters that did not vote for Bill Belichick. And he explained in his recent column why. And Brendan, I think he's got a sound reason. I really do think so.
Oh, he does. I was hoping it was because of Jordan Hudson, and it's clearly not. But
sure,
I do think the reason makes sense, and it's actually not all too dissimilar to some of the consternation that folks have had over the years about the MLB, the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the way that is structured.
Yeah, Gregorian essentially said, I mean, you can go and read his article. We won't, lay it all out here, but his main gist of the argument is that, look, I know for sure that Bill Belichick will get into this Hall of Fame, and he'll get in fairly early with the number of chances that he will be given to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a senior candidate. But there are other candidates on this list that have been on here longer that I think are deserving, and they're not going to get all that many chances in the next few years. So he voted for 3 senior candidates, and I guess 3 is the max that you can vote for in this particular subsection of the voting. I'm not sure on that, but
yeah, 3 might just be the number in general. Like Belichick was not a senior candidate, I don't believe. I mean, this was his first year eligible on the ballot, so it wouldn't be.
Well, no, like
category.
it's not, but it's not the same way that players get voted in. Like Bill Belichick's not on the same ballot as the players. This is a different way that, like, I don't know if it's coaches, candidates, or
I'm saying
something like that.
However it goes down, like I'm looking at a list of the semifinalists for the senior category, and Bill Belichick wasn't even like a semifinalist for that. I don't think his. I could be wrong. I don't think he was though. This was from like November,
right,
where like they published the semifinalists. Belichick wasn't on the same list as, I think L.C. Greenwood was one, Roger Craig was one that Vahe said he voted for.
Yeah, and Ken Anderson,
maybe
another one.
I think maybe they just vote for 3 total. Could be from the senior division or from the standard division. Maybe the point is there's limitations on the voting. He said in his column, I didn't vote to say Bill Belichick's not a Hall of Famer, but it's not a yes/no vote. It's not
right.
List out the players or the individuals and are they a Hall of Famer, yes or no. It's under the construct of limitations of you can only do so many. And his thought was, when it comes to these senior category guys, oftentimes it comes from deliberation, and you're in the room and there's somebody in there that's got to vouch for this person who frankly probably half the people in the room have never heard of, right? Like you'd like to think that everybody involved is totally aware because they're on the vote, but there are instances of there's somebody that's got to stand up and stump for somebody from 1968 that is not on the radar for most people. And so when the seniors make it through, basically that senior category is folks who have been passed over in previous iterations, and now it's kind of each year you drum up support for the candidate. And sometimes those folks that reach very far stages of the senior ballot, they're not just automatically on it again next year the way that it would function in, like, I know for baseball, unless you fall below 5%, you're on it for like up to however many years, 10 years or whatever it is. And then you got to get to 75%. In this case, I guess they needed 80%, 40 of the 50 votes, but you can't just say all 50 people, hey, is Bill a Hall of Famer? Yes. 50 for 50. You're limited to how many people you can choose, which is a similar quandary for the baseball version.
And so that is the constraint that each of these voters has, and Vahe Gregorian, with said constraint, wanted to give as much of a chance as possible for other candidates on that ballot that he thought were deserving. And it is not to say that there were several others that were also deserving, but it's, again, trying to maximize the potential of these candidates of getting in regarding how long they would have to actually get in. And so, like, Bill Belichick is going to get in eventually, probably next year, and it won't fuss about this all that much more. But that's why Vahe Gregorian explained, like, hey, I wanted to use my votes to try and get some of the underappreciated candidates in that have resumes that very clearly deserve it. And that's why I voted the way that I voted. And his larger argument to it is, look, this system needs to change. And I think he's absolutely right.
Yeah. And like, I think that's a perfect example of a way that this vote, because I think when everybody initially heard Belichick not a first ballot Hall of Famer, I laughed hysterically because I just thought it was awesome. But from like the real, not just trolling or joking about it standpoint, the system is more what constrains some of these voters. Now, I won't say, and Vahe said the same, like you can't say not everybody was doing it for this reason, but in his case, he's looking at it and saying, like, if I don't get support for this guy now, and this guy gets enough to be able to get in now, he never will, because it's very plausible that nobody's going to be talking about him this time next year. In Belichick's case, you're never going to have to worry about that. Like, he's always going to be up for consideration. It's a matter of probably not very many votes that he falls short this time. He's going to be in there, you would think, next year, especially after the firestorm this time. I would be very surprised if he's not inducted or elected the following year. Not going to be the case for these others. And so until you present me with a system that allows me to do two deserving things at once, this is the way that I have to operate. And he's getting some pushback for sure from people that are like, oh, you wouldn't have done this if it was Andy Reid. Like, I saw that comment. I can't say whether he would or wouldn't have, but I do think it's valid to say, look, man, it's more a problem with the system than the way to do it. Part of that, though, is in like, how much does it really mean we dealt with this in baseball when it was like very hard to get a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer. Right. Mariano Rivera, of all people. I say that not like he's not an obvious Hall of Fame candidate, but for a relief pitcher, that's often, like in baseball, a very controversial topic anyway, of like, how do you value relievers in this grand conversation? For like some of those names that weren't first ballot, weren't unanimous, what does that mean to their overall legacy? I guess in football, you would think, man, he wasn't a unanimous, but it just doesn't really feel like we pay as much attention to that. But certainly him not being a first ballot Hall of Famer is now going to be something that sticks with that resume forever, for better or worse. It's not like it's a reflection on him necessarily, but it is a reflection on, like, yeah, he wasn't on the first ballot. Whatever you think of that, nothing's going to change it moving forward, which who knows how to feel about that.
And look, in the grand scheme of things, like I've been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I've seen all the busts and everything like that. And I can tell you firsthand, they do not list underneath the bust first ballot or third ballot or fifth ballot. No, it's just, you're in the Hall of Fame. So after a while, after Bill Belichick eventually gets in, again, probably next year, then we're likely going to forget about all of this. It'll be fun to like go back and remember when they didn't let him in the first time? That was kind of ridiculous. Like, yeah, sure. But in the grand scheme of things, not going to matter all that much. And I think Vahe Gregorian was a good recognizer of that and said, look, this guy's getting in anyway. It's not going to matter whether it's first year, second year, third year. Let's try and get somebody else in that doesn't have as many years left to get it.
Yeah. And I think the breakdown, the seniors is its own category, but they're lumped in for the final vote with the coaching and other contributor categories. So like you can only go with so many. And another aspect of it is that with Belichick not being in this year means like he'll be probably the one coach that an individual is going to vote for next time around. And so what other coach is then going to have to wait another year that should probably already be in? Like there's a lot of that politicking that goes on with it. And I don't even say politicking in like a negative way. It's just the way that voters have to adhere to these protocols in order to try to game the system to get the most fair and equitable outcome for what these, his people that were very impactful to the sport would deserve. And it's not always an easy answer. Like it now that I'm learning more about the process myself, I go, oh, I know exactly how this happened because I'm more familiar with it on the baseball side of just how much of a nuanced process it is. It's probably a flawed process though, if it can result in us determining even once that Belichick is not a Hall of Famer. I would agree with that because he's arguably the greatest of all time. You could differ on that, but certainly is on the short list. And so it should be in, and it shouldn't take a second year. The fact that it does, I think, is really funny because I don't really care. It's Bill Belichick.
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll have our jokes on Bill Belichick, and that'll be yet another one that we can use. Yep. Vahe Gregorian gave his reasoning on why he didn't vote for Bill Belichick in the Pro Football Hall of Fame vote recently. Give us your thoughts on it. 573-875-KTGR. Up next, some former Mizzou players really showing out in Senior Bowl practices. I think there could be some guys climbing up some boards here. We'll talk about them next.
Now, your local Sports Center update on your total sports station, KTGR.
Good evening, I'm Andy Humphrey. This Sports Center update is with Lee's Tire Company. If it's round and rubber, Lee sells it. Go to leestirecompany.com. Mizzou football officially announcing 4 assistant coaching hires yesterday. John Papuchis is the new special teams coordinator. He'll also serve as a defensive assistant with the Tigers after serving in the same role at Florida State. Alex Atkins, former LSU tight ends coach, will serve the same position at Mizzou next season. Chop Harbin was a defensive assistant at Tennessee for the past 5 years. He'll be the defensive line coach at Mizzou. And former Clemson OC Garrett Riley comes over to Mizzou to be the Tigers' quarterbacks coach. Meanwhile, Creed Humphrey named as one of 6 finalists for the NFL's Protector of the Year award today. It goes out to the league's top offensive lineman, regardless of position. Humphrey, his 5th season as the Chiefs' starting center. We'll learn whether he has won that award 1 week from tonight at NFL Honors. Blues look to break up a 5-game winless streak tonight as they take on the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Puck drops at Enterprise Center at 7 o'clock. Now your ABC 17 Storm Track forecast.
I'm ABC 17 Storm Track Chief Meteorologist Jessica Hafner. I'm tracking mostly cloudy skies and a chance for a few flurries this evening. It's going to get much colder as we drop down to about 6 degrees by morning. Tomorrow is cold and blustery as we see temperatures only topping out at around 17 degrees. We'll see mostly cloudy skies by afternoon with a chance for a few flurries by tomorrow night. A weather alert day goes into effect for wind chills, dropping down to around -10. I'm ABC 17 Storm Track Chief Meteorologist Jessica Hafner, and that's your ABC 17 Storm Track forecast on your total sports station, KTGR.
High school hoops
Switches on the crossover, Euro step inside, high off the glass and in.
at its best.
Catch it on the left wing, turns around and knocks down the 3.
KTGR is your home for the best high school basketball matchups in Columbia. Follow the Cupies, Bruins, Spartans, and Trailblazers all season long on KTGR's High School Hoops Game of the Week. See the full list of game broadcasts on KTGR.com and listen on the go with a free KTGR app. High school basketball lives here on your total sports station, KTGR.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-444-9336. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-444-9336. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-444-9336. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-444-9336. 800-444-9336.
Life has many sweet sounds. Whether it's being enchanted by the coo of a baby, enthralled by the refrain of a favorite song, or even enlightened by a celebration, hearing connects, informs, and engages us with the world. At Hearing Aid Consultants, helping people hear better is our passion. Set your hearing baseline now so you don't miss the sweet sounds of life.
Hearing Aid Consultants in Almake Repair Lab. We are here for you today so you can hear tomorrow. HearingAidConsultants.com.
Welcome to every gym in January. Membership prices, crazy high. Crowds, even worse. All just to wait in line for a bench. Or, hear me out, you could build your own home gym from Play It Again Sports. Free weights, dumbbells, plates, treadmills, ellipticals, benches, racks, and more. New and used. At prices that don't feel like a crime. No crowds, no monthly fees, no awkward eye contact with Chad curling on the squat rack. Play It Again Sports. Think of them first so you don't finish last. Play It Again Sports, ColumbiaMo.com.
I stopped smoking with Mark Patrick's hypnosis when nothing else worked. 1 year later, my wife Michelle and I attended the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis seminar. In 2 months, lost 43 pounds, and she lost 18 pounds.
And we feel great.
Hypnosis, only $59.99. Tuesday, February 3rd at the Capitol Plaza Hotel and Convention Center in Jefferson City, or Wednesday, February 4th at the Holiday Inn Columbia East in Columbia. Weight loss hypnosis 5:30 p.m., stop smoking hypnosis 8 p.m.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Catherine Hanaway. When severe weather hits, scammers often follow. They may pose as charities, jack up prices on essentials, or offer fraudulent home repairs. I'm committed to protecting Missourians from those scams. If you've been targeted or suspect price gouging, report it to our office at 800-392-8222 or online at ago.mo.gov.
Paid for by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
You know your favorites. Now it's time to put them on the map. Nominations are open for Inside Columbia Magazine's Best of Columbia 2026, now through March 1st. Nominate the businesses and places you love, including Best Mexican Food, Best Spa, Best Steak, Best Hairstylist, Best Lawn Care, and more. You can nominate once per day, so come back and support the businesses you love most. Best of Columbia 2026 starts with you. Nominate today at InsideColumbia.net.
If it's Mizzou sports, it's happening here. Now, back to the big show on KTGR.
Give us a like on our socials at Facebook, facebook.com/KTGR Big Show. We're live there right now at KTGR Big Show on Twitter and on YouTube, youtube.com/@KTGR Sports. If you subscribe there, you won't miss a single show. We're on every single day here on YouTube, so you can catch us there and leave a comment if you would like as well. And let us know what you think about Mizzou as they head into this Saturday against Mississippi State and much more. And also about guys like Zion Young and Chris McClellan, who are, gotta say, doing pretty well for themselves in front of NFL scouts over in Mobile. That's been fun to see.
No, I've seen some of the Zion Young clips in particular, and he's been moving people. I mean, just in a very impressive way.
Was it that one with the Illinois tackle?
That was the one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He just flattened him, and it just steamrolled, and there's nothing this poor guy could do. He's probably a nice prospect himself, but nothing that he could do against Zion Young, who, look, I've been impressed with how, like, in games he has upped his preparedness for a level like this, but I always knew that the way that he attacked certain reps, and certainly you saw that on the field, that he was going to do well in this setting. So I wonder how that helps him, or maybe like whether scouts kind of say, yeah, we knew he would do that, but it seems that they're pretty shocked at how he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of stuff that they're doing, those individual drills, is maybe made for the potential to have those viral moments that it's just like, wow, look at what so-and-so just did. And so he's benefiting from some of that. But I think there'll be more to it than that determines, whether he gets drafted, where he gets drafted, and like interview process and everything that comes through it. But I think he's certainly putting himself in a good position to kind of kick off the draft season, if you will, because there's a lot more that'll come to pass that he'll want to grade out favorably on, but I think he'll be on some radars for sure.
And there was a tweet from Eric Edholm, NFL draft specialist. He was asking one of the support coaches who was holding the tackling dummy to be hit essentially by all these defensive linemen. And Eric asked the guy, who hit you the hardest? And the coach said back, I think it was that guy from Mizzou. And he was talking about Chris McClellan.
Yeah.
That is also very interesting to see.
Pretty good. Yeah, that's exciting stuff for sure.
And Chris McClellan, I think, needed a wow moment like that one and several during this process, whether it's Senior Bowl, Combine, things like that, to kind of get back in this conversation, because he is a little overlooked maybe during the season or before the season for who might be an NFL draft prospect for Mizzou. Kevin Coleman also very interested, pleasantly surprised by how he's been turning heads too.
Yeah, I saw some controversy about one of the videos with him where it was like, all right, you're running one-on-ones. People were critiquing the route and to say that the safety would have intercepted that if it was not just on an empty field. But I think generally he's also making a positive impression.
Interesting Senior Bowl happenings when it comes to Mizzou players. So we'll keep following that in the draft process all the way up until April. Thanks for joining us today. High school hoops coming up at 6:45. Rockbridge Hickman girls basketball. We're back at 4 tomorrow. He's Brendan. I'm Andy. We're done for now.
Another winter inside, looking at the snow in your yard that you can't write your name in because